I have this friend who started going to Toastmasters. He's really shy and really introverted. His boss wants to promote him, but this would require he travel around and give speeches on behalf of his company. So he requires that in order to get a promotion, he has to go through the Toastmasters Beginners Program, which essentially means he has to give 10 speeches. But so far, he's been terrified of giving his first one. So he started searching online for anything that would help. And she found this woman that promised she would cure his introverted shyness with some magic. Since he was desperate, he decided to meet her. I have this friend who lives alone, and for a while he absolutely loved his apartment until these really loud people moved in next door. They were always fighting and screaming at each other 24/7. And they were throwing stuff, punching the walls, playing loud music so they wouldn't have to hear each other shout at each other. He didn't know what to do since they sounded really dangerous. My friend has had this job for a long time. He's really quiet and really smart. And he tells me the company is taking a turn for the worse. The guys who have taken over are very belligerent, very forceful of their opinions, but very dumb. And he was certain that they were going to steer the company into the ground. The problem seemed to be that they didn't care since they were getting paid tons of money in stock options. He doesn't want to find another company since he holds the patents for most of their profitable products. Then one day, while they were having a meeting led by these belligerent morons, he just lost it. I mean, he absolutely lost it. I have this friend who got an invitation to this secretive-sounding church. A church he's never heard of before. He wasn't sure who sent him the invitation, but he got a good feeling about this, so he decided to check this out. It's very well hidden. You have to take a lot of unknown dirt roads to get there. And it's in this unexpected open lot in the middle of this forest. He never would have found it if he didn't have specific instructions. He couldn't find any literature inside the church with any addresses. He said it was about half filled. And it seemed like a regular church until the preacher gave his sermon. He said this was like nothing he'd ever heard before. A whole bunch of stories about ancient kingdoms, good versus evil, the nature of money and how it's the lifeblood of society, and a bunch of other cool-sounding stuff that he can't remember. Vague stories filled with colors and inspiration and singing. Then they passed the collection plate around. My friend tossed in $20. As he was leaving, shaking hands with people, etc., some lady came up and whispered something into his ear. She told him to check his bank account and to be sure to come back next week. She seemed sincere, so he promised he would. He checked his bank account a couple of days later, and somebody had made a deposit of $40. He checked with his bank, and they said it was accurate. But the person who made the deposit had made it anonymously. So he went back to the church, and the same thing happened. A whole bunch of cool but confusing stories, and then the collection plate. As it came his way, he glanced around for that same woman. He saw her, and she was already watching him closely. She flashed her eyes and nodded. He put in $40, and she smiled even more widely. Later that week, he found a deposit for $80. So he went to the church the following week and looked for that same lady before going inside. He walked up to her, wanting to find out what was going on. "Don't ask," she said. "Just accept it." Nobody knows anyway. But as far as we can guess, you're supposed to use the extra money however you think is best, to help others however you think they can be helped. Beyond that, I don't think we're supposed to talk about this. Just enjoy the stories and the singing. He said when he stood up and started screaming, he was certain they would fire him. But the more he kept screaming, the more he saw almost in pure detail all the things he wanted to say. Like there was this whole transcript in his mind of things he was going to yell about. And the more he shouted, the clearer this became. And he ended up screaming at the moronic management for a full 30 minutes. They immediately took a vote and made him CEO. Now he sits in his office and people are afraid to go in and talk to him. So they do whatever he suggests without question. Now the company is insanely profitable. Finally, he complained and the management was happy. They said that you are the first to complain, and now that we've had an official complaint, we can file legal action and get them evicted. And because they had done so much damage, they didn't fix it for a long time, which meant he is back to living in his quiet apartment like before. He met up with this lady, certain that she was going to scam him, but her magic worked. The first time he stood up, he was still kind of nervous, but he said it was like a magic self-sustaining loop. The more he spoke, the more he was able to suck up the energy of the crowd, which made him speak even more powerfully, persuasively, and eloquently. Now he speaks to huge auditoriums on behalf of his company. He even spoke before Congress and convinced them to not pass a bill they were all but certain to pass. It's almost like he has discovered an ancient and powerful gift of oration, that when he stands up to speak, nobody dares oppose him.